Hey guys, this is Landon, aka DJ New Spirit. I also go by the name of LandRyu513 or S Club LandRyu513. But getting to the point, I wanted to kind of touch or address on some key issues that I think that has been happening since the fiasco of the old Street Fighter 4 port that was released on digitally through Sony Computer Entertainment or PSN on the PlayStation 4 platform. Now, I will be persecuted for this video, so I already know that's going to happen. But at the end of the day, I don't have the patience, regardless if it's in the comment section or not, to get into fanboy debates. I don't have the time for that because at the end of the day, we're not, half of us are not even winning these Evo tournaments. And then secondly, humbly speaking, Capcom is and Sony Computer Entertainment of America, Xbox Live, Microsoft, I don't care who it is, they are not paying our bills. So no debates about none of this, but I'm just going to get to the facts. I'm sorry if I cheesed off anybody. Anyways, getting to the point. I think some key issues are having to be addressed with this. I think many people are getting the wrong misconception of things regarding this port, and it seemed like it's turned into a console war. And I think I'm going to hit some personal key points that I think, by opinion, that has led to a lot of the debate since the fiasco of Ultra Street Fighter 4. First and foremost, we all know that a port meaning that it's an exact emulation, or supposed to be an exact emulation, with minor error or minor occurrences that keeps the port from actually being the correct emulation or the correct port of the actual game. But with that in mind, still, Sony Computer Entertainment of America, along with in conjunction with other oceans, didn't really pay that attention. I think whether people are willing to accept it or not, this was the majority of Capcom's fault. For somebody like myself, and I've been in this humbly, as a rookie producer in music, one of the things that I think Capcom has done in the past is when you're working on a mix, for instance, you don't just pay attention to that one mix, but while you have other projects, you want to make sure that you pay attention to each project equally, regardless about whether it's Sony Computer Entertainment America's fault or Sony Computer Entertainment is in its point, along with Other Ocean. And Other Ocean really messed it up as far as not doing the productive research intuitively on making sure that the port was released correctly. I do think that Capcom, in the example that was given, Capcom should have paid attention to this equally. You know, I understand they may be out there working on Street Fighter 5, which I'm very excited for, and they also were in conjunction or partnership with Namco doing this not Capcom, but Tekken Cross Street Fighter. But you have to pay attention to each project individually, not individually, but equally. You don't put all your energy in one project, but you want to make sure that each and every intellectual property that belongs to you is being worked on conclusively. And Capcom messed up on that. We have gotten to the point to where we've, in the community, in the fighting game community, have turned this into a fanboy and turned this into a hideous console war. You know, I'm a Sony owner. Okay, as far as Sony owner, I mean I'm a PSN or a PlayStation owner. I've got all their consoles more than likely, and I'm getting into PS4. But the biggest thing to me at this point is that when you're releasing something on a peripheral, such as PS4, you want to make sure that everything has been done and ported correctly. There have been games in the past where they have not done that correctly. Only a few games that I can name off the top of my head that I think they might have done correctly was Street Fighter Alpha 3, the Street Fighter Anniversary Collection, Street Fighter Alpha Collection, the Street Fighter EX plus Alpha series, and I can't really say a whole bunch, but at the end of the day, as a fighting game fan, there has been numerous incidents of ports, and this has happened on some of the Xbox Live games, such as Marvel vs. Capcom 2, where there were certain patches, I believe, that needed to be corrected. But I guess never corrected. I guess I could be wrong, but don't hate me for saying this. But I think, and I'm going to get to the key issue of this, people, and I'm looking at the camera when I say this. I think one of the biggest things of why the port, if not, is receiving so much hate. But I think, honestly, and it's coming from me being a fighting game enthusiast, and I have owned various or numerous Xbox Live games on 360 or on the original Xbox. One of them being my favorite, which was the Street Fighter 3 Third Strike on the original Xbox, and I own that as well on the PS2. And I honestly think that that game played a bit better because you're not dealing with all the buggy or sound issues and stuff that you deal with on the PSN version or the Microsoft or Xbox Live version of Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online, claiming it was arcade perfect. But when you're still playing online, regardless of what console it is, I came across the same issues. I came across the same issues of sound dropping. I've came across the same issues of when you do a KO, you'll hear it, but you are still in the middle of the game because of the ping. It was very weird. And sometimes being sound normalization or equalization. And this appears in any emulation. If anybody who's played emulators or whatnot, you've seen what this stuff can do. But getting to the point, I think the biggest issue of why there is so much backlash in the community, especially towards a lot of hate towards Sony, and I'm not defending anything, because like I said, I don't want this being a fanboy debate, but I think a lot of it is due to the factor that Microsoft dropped the ball and said no to the cross compatibility for Street Fighter V. That's when the fighting game community is like, oh my gosh, I hate Sony. I hate Sony so much. Don't hate Sony. I'm not defending Sony. I'm not a fanboy. I have each and every console that's out there. You blame the company that said no to cross compatibility because Xbox Live has been a staple, or Xbox 360 or Xbox One, in this case Xbox, has been a staple in terms of the fighting game community because of its exact core, because its precise timing with input lag that I've heard that many people are complaining about, and so on. But at the end of the day, I think the key issue is the fact that when Microsoft dropped the ball on the cross compatibility, this is something that I don't even understand as a PC owner. You own a peripheral or software application or operating system in this case, which is Windows, and you're a PC marketer or developer. Yet you will not do anything in terms of cross compatibility with PCs. That was on Microsoft or Xbox Live, or Xbox in this case. So I think the fault will be on them. And I think that's why there's so much backlash in the community, because people are waiting for Street Fighter V to fill. People are waiting for these other projects and everything to fill. Now, Sony Computer Entertainment, and along with other Ocean Interactive, and now Capcom has stepped in because, again, if you notice, have anybody, and oh no, son, you hear me talking to you. I'm not being rude. I'm telling you the exact, distinct truth. Capcom has got to pay attention to their intellectual properties. There are no ifs and buts about this. There's no excuses for that. People claim that the company claimed that this was going to be the arcade perfect version of it, and I'm still excited about it. But the sad thing is that we all have to wait to make sure that the port has been configured properly and that this is done correctly. Again, I think the company should pay a lot of attention equally to each intellectual property that they work on. But I think the key factor is the factor that the PS4 is getting so much backlash because a lot of people hated the PS3 port. You got a lot of people who just don't like Sony in general because I think it's a lot of arrogance, bravado, ego, and this thing like it's like almost like an inferiority complex. But I've seen people who play on Xbox Live get ousted in actual offline tournaments by PSN users who've never even probably touched the Xbox console before and did flawlessly. So to me, I think it's just a matter of opinion, and I just think it's a lot of backlash because of the factor that Street Fighter V, in my net opinion, is being ported on the not being ported but being developed ground up, distinctly for PS4. And I think that's why a lot of people were saying that wait. It's like you got people waiting for basically the game to fail, or waiting for the console to fail, because a lot of them feel dismayed, or a lot of them feel betrayed because of the factor that Microsoft didn't want to stick with their end of the bargain. And that's just what it is. You know, whether people are willing to accept it or not, I think the key factor is because Street Fighter V is being ported on the PS, not being ported, but being developed from ground up for the PlayStation 4. And that's basically all I can say at this point. I apologize for the 10-minute rant, or in this case, over 10 minutes. But the console war debate, I think, is stupid. No, but none of these companies are paying for our bills, paying for our mortgages, paying for our cars, paying to make sure that we can have a warm meal to eat every day. And I think the fighting game community has gotten to a point to where it's abrasive. Many of you are bullies. I say that humbly. You guys come off as somebody like, if you're not on Xbox Live, you suck, or all this other stuff. And I think it's demeaning. I think it's to a point pathetic. And many of us are pretty much grown men arguing over a video game, something that's not going to go to the grave with us. But I think a lot of that backlash needs to stop. And I just think companies in general, when they do ports of games, should pay more attention to their intellectual property, and not so much as Sony being at fault at this, which a majority of it is. Other oceans for not paying attention to what was being developed correctly. But at the end of the day, Capcom, you guys have to pay attention to your intellectual properties equally. And that's where it boils down to. Fighting game community, make some peace, man. You guys are blowing each other up for nothing. This is Landon, a.k.a. DJ Nude Spirit, out. Peace and blessings, everybody. Bye.